We're going to look closely at one of the details of Times Square and see how Illustrator was instrumental in creating the elements. A little M&M sign right there. Now, in the actual Times Square, this is a giant screen that's constantly animated. So here's the actual art, the way it was created. And when we look at the layers, you'll see that there are multiple layers. Here's the placement, the finals, and all that. And here's all the different pieces. The top one, of course, is the composite. And then we can start to take away some of these pieces, and you'll see they start to disappear. Different parts showing. You can see little shadows, and there's the little red copies, and there's the little shadows on top of those. So each layer starts forming the overall image. Because this is supposed to be an animation, certain rules were applied, motion blur to make them look like they're falling down. But like I said, this was done in Illustrator. So let's go see how it was done in Illustrator. In Illustrator, I'm going to create a new file here. And it's a blank file. It's getting real close. And I'm going to give myself a guide. I want to have a guide here because of the fact that I really need to be accurate. So I just going to pull out a little guide for myself right here, like that. I'm going to go in here and create a little arc. Starting right there from the guide, I'm going to pull out a little handle. And I'm going to go over here and just click and drag a little handle like that. So there's basically a quarter of an overall lozenge of M&Ms. Now I want it to be perfectly symmetrical, so instead of just trying to complete that circle, I'm just going to select this. I'm going to reflect it on itself. I'm going to say reflect from right there. At that point, I'm going to say on the horizontal, give me a copy. So there's that copy, which I'm now going to select these 2 points right here and join them. Path join. So now I'm going to select the entire thing and once again make a reflection, but this time right here from the center on a vertical axis, make a copy. And there we can see we have our little lozenge, which I'm going to now join it up there. I'm going to use the keyboard command and join it right there. Now, it seems to be a little off, so I'm just going to kind of stretch this out a little bit here like that, just to make it a little more round on the top and bottom. Just a little more round right there. Pulling out these handles so that it becomes this nice round edge. There. That's what I want. Now, do I need all that? No, I don't even need this side at all. All I need is that half of it right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it no fill, but I am going to give the stroke a color. I'm going to make this a green M&M. So I gave it a green stroke. So now I've got all the points selected right there, and that half is going to become one entire M&M. I come over here to my effects, and there you see I have 3D. And the second choice we have here is revolve. Now, Photoshop did introduce 3D into CS5. It really advanced it. It actually had 3D features in earlier versions, but it lacks something like this one here, the ability to go in there and turn that little shape into a complete disc. So I'm going to go in here and say revolve, which will bring me into this little 3D panel right there. Now, I can preview what it's going to do. Here I can move it around, and you'll see all that in a second. But I can preview this. So I'm going to click preview. And we see what it's created, this weird shape. But that's because right now it's doing an offset from the left edge. That's this side. So what I want to do is just simply change this to from the right edge. And there's my little M&M, which I can view from any angle that I want. See? I can twirl it around. And I have this cool little M&M that I'm seeing from different angles. And I have more options. So I can go in here and specify where the light's coming from. And you can see the light moving on the scene. So right there, I want this little light to come from, say, right up here. So there's a little light right up on top. So I'm going to go in there and say, click OK, and I have my little M&M. Now I want a bunch of little M&Ms. So I want them all in the same file. I want all the green M&Ms to be together. So what I want to do is I'm going to simply copy this guy right down here. Now, you'll notice that I'm still seeing only the arc when it's selected, but I'm seeing an entire M&M, but I'm actually seeing that it's only an arc. Now, this next point I'm about to make is important. I want to now rotate this guy. I want to rotate him a little more. If I come up here and go to my 3D revolve, see this window? This will apply another instance of this effect. Cancel. In other words, it's going to start from scratch. Now, I've established the light direction. I've established everything when I created the original. I simply want to move this guy with all those other parameters in place. So the reason we see this arc here is because we don't really have this little bead here. what we have is the appearance of that bead. That's the shape, and we've turned it into this because of the effects we applied. When it prints, it's going to look like that. We see it like that on the screen, but basically that's just information that's there. So I have here the appearance panel. And in the appearance panel, you'll see there's a 3D revolve. If I click on it here, it brings me into the actual settings. See, it looks like exactly the way I left it originally. So I can see the actual settings and I can still preview it. And now I can move this one to a different angle like that. And you see that all the settings pertain to the original settings that I had here because I'm playing with the appearance of that arc. I already applied my 3D effects, so I'm simply changing parts of them. So I did it in the appearance window rather than going back up to the effects and applying another instance, which meant I would have had to start completely from scratch. Clicking OK, and there we see that we now have two different beans. Now, in this particular case, let's just select this one for now, and I would copy them, go back over to Photoshop, and we'll create a new file. Now, watch what happens here. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Let's say we make this 400 by 400 because it knows what's in the clipboard right now. Now, paste. If I paste it as paths, look what comes in. It's this weird bunch of shapes here, which I can then manipulate if I want to. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to paste it. And here I paste as pixels because I assigned the color in Illustrator. So I bring them in as pixels. And when I click OK, you can see that I'm going to have the actual little bead the way I wanted to have it, place it the way it was done in Illustrator. And we see it as this little 3D bead. So I could then manipulate it further to create the overall bunch of little M&Ms that we see there.